Tonight, I want to talk about making time for God, which I know can be sort of a generic topic, and I know we hear it talked about a lot, but I feel like it's something that needs to be talked about within our generation simply because we maybe have the most distractions of any generation before us. Who here, for the most part, would agree with that? Like, we have a ridiculous number of distractions. And I'm not going to sit here and say that tomorrow we need to throw our phone out the window because, I have a phone. I like it too. But what I am going to say is that we need to start taking practical steps, not just to avoid the distractions, but also to make time for God, and those sort of tie in together. But here's the cool thing about the Catholic Church is that there is a why behind every little thing that we do. Therefore, we got to answer the question, if we're going to talk about making time for God, why? And obviously, like we know on surface level, I'm sure we've heard many, many times, yes, well, God's someone who lives outside of time. God always has time for us. But us having time for God is significant to our spiritual life with Him. So here's the deal. I think oftentimes we overcomplicate how to build a relationship with God. How we're going to become friends with God, we make a lot more complicated than it should be. It's actually really simple. It's just like a normal human friendship. I want you guys to think of a friend of yours. Think of someone who you can picture as your friend. You didn't become a friend with that person just by talking to them one time and then never again. Here's what I want to do, actually. Could I have 2 volunteers?
I got you.
Thank you. Could I have one more volunteer? One more volunteer.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. What's your name?
Tyler.
Tyler, what's your name?
Paige.
Okay. So Tyler, buddy, what grade are you in?
I'm a freshman.
You're a freshman. Okay, Paige, what grade are you in?
She's also a freshman.
Huh?
She's also a freshman. Yep.
Sorry, I don't mean to. No, good for you, Tyler. Nice man. You like in high school?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, no, that was rude. I don't think you'd be
It's
rude.
better than middle school.
It is better than middle school. I'd agree with that. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Sorry, Tyler. You're great,
I
buddy.
don't know what you're sorry for.
No, you're right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So Paige, can you say hi to Tyler?
Hi, Tyler.
Okay. Now, you said hi to her one time. You said hi to him one time.
Yeah.
Are you guys absolute best friends?
No.
You guys can go sit back down. Thank you. That was the entire thing. That is my sorry, that was funny. That threw me off. That is my entire point, right? Just because you guys talk one time doesn't mean that suddenly you built an absolute best friendship. It would have really entirely threw me off if you guys said yes, because then that completely destroyed the analogy, and then I would have had to retrace. I thought that was funny again, but you guys clearly don't, so that's fine. Anyway, so it's the same thing with God when building a relationship with Him. When wanting to get close to Him, it comes down to speaking to Him. And we know that we talk to Him through prayer, but oftentimes we really struggle with our prayer. I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, I've struggled to build a prayer life many times, right? I think that part of the reason we struggle to build a prayer life so often, or I don't know if you guys have ever relate to this, you know that it's important to pray. Maybe, have you guys ever heard of the Jesus high? It's sometimes after you go to a retreat or you go to church and they say that you're on a Jesus high. I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced that. So you feel you really need to pray, now's the time. But then you just kind of get caught up with school. School's a big distraction for us. We have so many things to do at school. But school's important. I have to say that because there are adults back there. So it's things like that we really need to refocus our time and building a deep prayer life with God. But so oftentimes we struggle with that. We struggle with that because we try to go from 0 to 100. We try to go from, and again, all of us are going to be at different points. Maybe some of us have a phenomenal relationship with God and we talk to Him every day. Maybe others of us don't really pray all that often. Wherever we are, we can always grow closer to Him. And sometimes the reason that we failed, or at least why I failed, was because I was trying to go from 0 to 100, right? I was trying to pray none at all and then suddenly pray for 2 hours every day. And I'm not saying that that's impossible. That would be absolutely phenomenal if you can accomplish that, but it does make it difficult, right? We know, what is it, 20 days to build a habit, 21? Does anybody know? 23. Tyler's smart. Thanks, Tyler. So it takes that many days to build a habit. So maybe just start out with a little bit of prayer for that much time on one specific day. But here's what we struggle with sometimes. Like, for me, it really helps me to set aside a specific time, set aside a specific place that I am going to pray. Like, I'm going to pray in this place. For me, don't make fun, it was like private. I liked praying in my closet. It was my thing. Nobody else bothered me. I thought that was funny. If you guys didn't, that's fine. Goodness. And also set aside a specific time to pray. Actually, I have somewhat of a story about this. So I was really struggling to start a spiritual life a couple years ago. I had been on several retreats, and I knew that it was important, but I so often failed to have the motivation to pray. Oftentimes, it's just a lack of motivation. So do you guys know like how in your alarm on your phone you can like name the alarm? You know what I'm talking about? So I set an alarm, and I knew that I was going to pray at that time. But the other issue was it was like a couple weeks after 2K20 had come out. So I was like kind of struggling between like, you know, what am I supposed to do? So it was game 5 of the NBA Finals, my career, starting point guard for the Charlotte Hornets. I thought that was cool. Maybe you guys said that's fine. I was sitting there playing 2K, and it was on the Xbox because I don't like PlayStation. I think that it's kind of overrated. I don't know. Maybe that's just okay.
Agreed.
You got okay. My fault. Anyway, so I'm sitting there playing on the Xbox, right? And then I had named my alarm for the time that it was going to go off. Go pray right now, or I'm disappointed in you. Which is kind of like ow, like it hurt my feelings a little bit, but it was necessary. So it was game 5 of the NBA. It was a really good game too, and that alarm had gone off, and I saw it, and I was like, man, I have to do it now. So I went to pray again in my closet. I liked it. So here's the thing though. I don't know about you guys. Like, oftentimes when I try to pray in my head, I like completely lose my train of thought, and then I get sidetracked. And then I like I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that. So for me, what I did was I started journaling my prayer. So it was like journaling my spiritual thoughts and all of that. And I've had a lot of people ask me like, well, what do you think is the best way to pray? And that question's kind of difficult because it's different for every person. For other people, like the idea of writing, they may not want it, right? Other people may like praying in the head. For me, I like writing down my thoughts as well. But here's the deal. So often we overlook the importance of prayer. We overlook the idea that prayer has any power because unfortunately, God's answer is sometimes no. And we don't really like that because we want the answer to be yes, right? But the issue comes in when we treat God as a genie. And I don't know about you guys, get kind of tired of hearing this sometimes. Hearing repetitively, like, don't treat God like a genie. Like, I get it, God's not a genie. But the reason we hear it so repetitively and the reason it sounds so cliche is because of how accurate it is. To not treat God like a genie, not just asking for things, but also understanding that sometimes the answer is just no. And the reason being, I mean, think about it. Like with our parents, like, okay, I don't like to get into the whole, like, sometimes our parents are right thing, but like I guess. So it's the same thing with God. Like a parent isn't going to say yes to everything. God isn't going to say yes to everything. And like sometimes it's like for the betterment of I'm not going to sit here and praise parents because I'm a teen, but what I will say is that sometimes they like do it for us. Anyway, so it's the same, you guys are not laughing at anything, goodness. It's the same thing with God, right? Sometimes God says no, and we may not understand why. But part of that reason is because we put so much emphasis on material things. We put so much emphasis on our earthly life. Now, obviously, we're going to focus on our earthly life. That's something that's going to happen. We care about our earthly life. That's more than acceptable. That's okay. But the second that we start to overlook our spiritual life, that's when it becomes an issue. Here's the deal, right? Okay, so there's 3 sort of, I don't know what to call it, types, not genres, it's not the right word, of health. That's mental health, physical health, and spiritual health, right? Obviously, we know the importance of focusing on our physical health. Going through COVID and all that, like we know focusing on our physical health is essential. We know that our generation right now has maybe one of the worst, like statistically, when it comes to mental health, is like absolutely horrendous. And I am going to get a little more into that later. Part of the reason why Gen Z, like statistically, has the worst mental health is because we're also willing to be more open about mental health than other generations. But nevertheless, it's still bad. Like, it's still not good. But then we also have our spiritual health. And our spiritual health gets overlooked so many times because we don't realize it. Unlike our physical and our mental health, we may be able to more clearly tell when that's deteriorating. Our spiritual health, we want to ignore it. Even though we may not realize it, we don't want to acknowledge that it's deteriorating, even subconsciously. I'm not saying that, like, our intent is to go in saying, oh, I'm going to ignore my spiritual health, but even subconsciously we ignore it because we don't want to face it, because the second we face it is I guess the second that everything about our relationship with Christ comes back into play. Because being Catholic is a commitment. Being Catholic is difficult. Nobody said that it was going to be easy. And I'll get a little more into that for tomorrow's talk when I talk about like remaining Catholic in our society, but nevertheless, it's difficult. And it's difficult in our generation. And if we think for 1 second that we can do it without God's help, then we're kind of out of our mind, right? Here's the deal. When it comes to building a relationship with Christ, we as young people, we have this advantage to know Christ right now and be Catholic right now, the one true religion, right? Think about all the people who may convert later on in life, and obviously, like, that's a phenomenal thing, converting later on in life. I'm not, like, shaming that in any way. I think that that's amazing because they come to find God rather than being raised in it. But, like, for us, being young and being Catholic, we have the advantage of building a deep relationship with Christ right now so that by the time we're an adult, by the time we get older, and we have to start worrying about things like, I don't know, like, taxes stuff, I don't know. That's going to get difficult, right? Like that's going to get difficult. So the second that we become best friends with God, the second it gets easier. But again, it's not overnight. Becoming best friends with God is not going to happen overnight. Just like Paige and Tyler aren't going to become best friends with one conversation, right? Okay, Tyler, I hear you, Tyler. I hear you. So it's not going to happen, right? Not like that. It's not going to happen just automatically all of a sudden becoming best friends with God. It's going to take time building a relationship. But not just one person talking, the other person talking back and communication. It was funny the first time. Could I get 2 more volunteers that aren't Paige and Tyler? You're looking around. I really think that you want to go. You're half standing up.
Come on, Ben.
And then one more, yeah? Yeah. There we go. Awesome. Okay, what's your name?
Ben.
Ben? Okay, what grade are you in?
Freshman.
Freshman? Okay. What's your name? Callan. What grade are you in? Fourth. Okay. So 4th grade and freshman. I want to make sure that you like weren't a freshman again that time. Okay. So here's the thing. Okay. So sorry, remind me of your name? Callan. Okay. So Callan, I want you to stand right here, okay? And this is your buddy Ben, okay? Ben's going to try to be friends with you. Ben, here's what I want you to do. I want you to try to have a conversation with Callan. Okay? Anything that you can come up with, any like topic that you can think of, try to become friends with your buddy Callan. Callan, I'm going to whisper something to you. Okay. Are you ready, Ben? Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Anything that you think you have in common with Callan. Callan, you know what to do? All right. Go ahead, Ben.
Don't follow anything. What's your favorite sport?
Ben, what are you doing? Maybe he doesn't like sports.
Maybe not. What do you like to do? Laugh.
Ben, you're kind of getting a little awkward here. I don't know why.
But he's the one making it awkward.
Are you chilling, Callan? Callan's just chilling. Ben, you want to get one more try?
I suppose. What's your favorite food, Callan?
All right, thank you, Ben and Callan. So, Callan, now you can talk. Okay. Let me, Ben, I'm trying to have a conversation with Callan. Okay, you can go sit back down, Ben. Okay. Callan, so I have a question. Okay. Are you now best friends with Ben? No. Thank you. You can go sit back down, Callan. Give a round of applause for Callan. Especially for Callan. Okay, so in that way, having a relationship, trying to begin any type of friendship where one person talks, Ben, and the other person doesn't talk back, isn't going to work out, right? Like when God is trying to reach us, when God is trying to talk to us, and when we're not answering him, when we're somewhat shutting the door in his face, that's not going to work out, right? We need to be answering God, because at the end of the day, God wants to be our best friend, absolutely. He is knocking on our door, wanting us to let him in, and so often, even subconsciously, we slam the door in his face every time that we choose our cell phone and every time that we choose sin. But there's another way in which our relationship with God sometimes struggles, and this part is on our end as well. Once again, I would love 2 more volunteers. Yes, absolutely. And we need 1 more volunteer. 1 more. Guys, we've been really struggling. Lucas, would you come up? Okay. Wait, what's your name? Ashley. Ashley. And Lucas, right? Okay, Lucas, what grade are you in? Are y'all all freshmen? Okay. And what? 7th. Okay. Again, not a surprise freshman. That's awesome. 7th. You still think you're great, Tyler. Okay, so Lucas and Ashley, right? Okay, so Lucas, once again, I want you to have a conversation with her. This time she's going to talk back. Don't worry, okay? I want you to have a conversation with her. But Ashley, I need a game plan with you for 1 moment. Okay, so come over here. Hold on. Okay, so we're going to do something a little special, Lucas. Okay? Okay, Ashley, you know what to do? Awesome. All right, you ready, buddy?
Yeah.
Okay, Lucas. Ashley's going to talk back. Don't worry. Okay? So you guys, Lucas, you can go first. I want you guys to try to have a conversation about anything. Sports. I don't know what y'all talk about in Harlan, like cyclones. I don't know. What? So can you try to have a conversation?
Playing sports.
Yeah,
What was that? What was that, Ashley? They're really good?
Really good? What do you play?
Why are you taking so far away?
Softball?
Lucas, say something.
Cool.
This is great. This is great.
You good at school?
Yeah.
Makes one of us.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Lucas. You guys did great. Yeah, so I'm going to explain that, actually. So that was a little bit... Thank you so much, Ashley and Lucas. That wasn't entirely the plan, but I was funny regardless, so it doesn't matter. So the example of that was going to be one person talking to another about a certain topic, let's say sports, and then the other replying with something completely and entirely out of the blue, unrelated, not listening to the other person. Ashley, you were hilarious. Thank you so much. You made it very awkward for Lucas, and I love that. I think that's great. So, point being, having a relationship in which one person stands here talking and the other brings up like an entirely different scenarios, different things without really listening to the first person is not going to work out. In the same way, when we don't listen to God, that's when it becomes somewhat of an issue. Here's the thing, guys. So we hear like so many saint stories about like angels coming down to people and that we think that it's so common. It's not. I don't know about you guys. When I was younger and I was waiting for a response for God, I was like, where's your angel, man? Like, I don't know what else to say. You guys don't laugh at anything except for my Thank you, Ben. Ben?
Yeah.
Ben, yeah. Okay, so, in the same way, we most likely won't hear God with our ears. If you do, that's phenomenal, okay? But most likely, we are going to hear God with our heart. And that was always a little bit difficult to understand. Like, when I was in a deep moment of adoration, I'd be sitting there thinking, okay, so I'm praying right now, and I think I hear a response, but how do I know that that's like me thinking, or is it actually God? Have you guys ever related to that?
Yeah.
That just, yeah, like absolutely. Like, is that me telling myself that it's God, or is it actually God? My answer to that is, if we are at all questioning, then it's us, okay? The reality is when we hear God's answer, when we know what God is trying to tell us, we will know. And sometimes it's situational. Sometimes God works through people, right? Sending people down to us. We just don't know. What we do know is that God absolutely wants to be our very best friend, and he absolutely wants to talk to us. All we need to do is reply. But in order to do that, we need to make time for him. Guys, here's the reality. I don't know about you guys. I sometimes feel a lot of pressure for what I need to apply my time to. I don't know about you guys, but I'm in a lot of extracurricular activities. Not sports. I'm not good. But I'm in a lot of extracurricular. You guys really? I'm in a lot of extracurricular activities, and so that takes up time, and then school takes up time, and then all this stuff take up.
Oh my God.
What are you in?
Thank you. I appreciate that question, actually. What am I in? I'm in webcast, so I commentate all the sports games. And then I'm in student council, and then I'm in this, so I go different, you know what I mean? I do a lot of stuff. I'm probably in something else. Oh, I'm in speech and debate. That's unique. It's great. So I do a lot of extra things. Hold on, Ben. There will be a Q&A segment after. Yeah. I appreciate it though, Ben. Hopefully you'll actually have questions because a lot of times high schoolers don't. So I'm in a lot of stuff, and so sometimes I run out of time, and I use a lack of time as my excuse for not talking to God. I utilize that to the fullest capability. But I don't know about you guys. When quarantine hit in 2020 and I had nothing but time, that excuse of time was completely thrown out the window. You guys know what I mean? And so because I had all the free time in the world, and so I started building a relationship with Christ in that way when I had time. And then when things start getting busy, when our lives keep going, when we're in sports, school, whatever it is, and we start to get continually busy, our schedule starts to pack up, we need to understand that other things, homework, whatever it is, that shouldn't be our excuse for not praying. Praying should be our excuse for not doing other things. But even then, we act like we have to entirely separate our social life and our spiritual life. Like they have to be two entirely separate things. Who says we can't pray on a day-to-day basis? Who says we can't pray and take it into our sport or whatever we do, right? So here's the deal. This is just a little story. I begun speech and debate this semester. I don't like to be seen as I don't want that to be what I do. I don't want to be speech and debate kid Kedon. People still see it that way. Anyway, so at tournaments, speech and debate's a whole new world. It's weird. I don't know if you guys have a team. It's a whole new world. Anyway, so before a tournament, my team, including myself, I'm not going to exclude myself from it. We get really stressed out, right? I want to make it clear. I don't debate. I'm not intelligent like that. I do the acting side of it. It's the whole thing. Anyway, we don't have to get into it. So Ben, entire Q&A segment, buddy. Oh, Ben. Okay, so I do that, right? So one time at a tournament, it was actually at the state tournament. So it was at OU, which is an ugly campus, by the way. Oklahoma State's so much prettier. Anyway, so in case. Yeah, I just want to make that clear. So it was at OU, right? There was a whole bunch of people around, and we're one of two Catholic schools in the entire area, and we're one of two Catholic schools with a team. I promise you guys this is going somewhere. I'm not just talking about what I do. So we were there, and okay, sometimes my team likes to make a joke that I bring God into everything. Sometimes when I get stressed out, I like to sing the Salve Regina to myself to calm me down, and some people think that's weird. You guys aren't laughing, which means you guys think it's weird, which is fine. But to me, I personally enjoy it. Anyway, so they like to make jokes about that. So we're all getting ready to go, okay? We all have all these different events. And we decide, as a group, to circle up for a team prayer, which I loved. Everybody else around us, it was in the middle of the OU Student Union, which is actually really underwhelming, by the way. It's a disgusting student union. Anyway, it was in the middle of the OU Student Union. You guys are goodness. It was in the middle of the OU Student Union, and some people might have been looking, I don't know. Clearly, I don't care about judgment. I do speech and debate. So we decided to have a team prayer. And it was moments like that reminded me that we need to incorporate prayer in the things that we do. The reality is, so often when we fall into temptation, because at the end of the day, we get tempted a lot, right? That's the whole reason we sin. All of us sin. None of us are perfect. That's not an excuse for it. Just because we all do it doesn't mean that should be our excuse for continuing to sin. But it does mean that none of us are perfect. It means that we fall into temptation. And so if we're not praying in our head, if we're not praying in the moment when we're feeling tempted, then what are we doing? It doesn't have to be out loud. Sometimes whenever I'm feeling tempted, whatever the situation may be, sometimes some people, they can just be annoying. Let's be real. So whenever I'm feeling tempted or whenever I'm feeling angry, I like to say in my head just quick, Jesus, I trust in you. Just snap of the fingers, quick, reminding me who I belong to, who created me. And I know that can be a difficult habit to start. Guys, all of this is difficult. We can think that for 1 second being Catholic and being a devout Catholic is going to be easy. It's not. That's the point. It is going to be difficult. And again, I'll talk a little more about that tomorrow. But regardless, we need to understand that at the end of the day, no matter how young we are, we absolutely need to start that prayer life. Amen?
Amen.
Okay, so I want to shift the focus a little bit. Ben, Q&A section will be coming up pretty soon, buddy. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I want to shift the focus a little bit. Who here knows the story of St. Tarcisius? Tarcisius.
What?
Tarcisius. So, none of you guys. Okay, awesome, because I'm going to explain it. So St. Tarcisius grew up in a time of very heavy persecution. There was Christian persecution all around the world to a degree that people were being imprisoned for no other reason than being Christian. So St. Tarcisius knew this, and Christians had tried to sneak the Eucharist into these prisoners time and time again. Because obviously we know, the Eucharist is the greatest gift we have in the faith. It is the source and summit of our faith. It is literally God. It's not a symbol. It's not a figure. It is literally God himself, right, in the Eucharist. So I wanted to sneak these prisoners the Eucharist, but every time that someone tried to sneak it into them, they got caught. And they would end up being in prison themselves, every single time. So St. Tarcisius, at the time, was just 12 years old. Is anybody in here 12? Okay, a couple of us. Okay, so not you, Tyler. I'm with you. So a couple of us in here are 12, like Callan, right? So sometimes we like to think that it's only up to adults to be like the real Catholic or whatever it is. St. Tarcisius makes it evident that that's not the case. So St. Tarcisius was 12 years old, and he decided that nobody would suspect a kid of trying to sneak the Eucharist into these prisoners. If they even tried to stop a kid trying to do a right thing, they were out of their mind. He was a kid. He was an innocent kid trying to do the right thing. So on his way there, he was taking the Eucharist into these prisoners, and then he kept it very secret. Now, this doesn't mean that he just ignored anybody who wasn't Christian, right? He had friends that weren't Christian. He had friends that encouraged the Christian persecution, and he knew this. So as he was on the way to the prison, he was stopped by some of his friends who would typically, at the time, I don't know what they played back then, but they played something. It wasn't I don't know. They didn't have, if they don't have a ball, I don't know what games there are, but clearly they did. And so they were going to ask Tarcisius if he wanted to stay hang out with them like Tarcisius usually does. Tarcisius had the Eucharist. He knew that these boys weren't Christian. He knew that was a horrendous idea because he was on a mission, right? He had to get these prisoners the Eucharist. So he said no, and he kept his head down, and he kept walking. Now, these friends of his at the time knew that wasn't typical of Tarcisius. They knew that it wasn't something that Tarcisius usually ever did. So they ended up coming up to him, and they discovered that he had the Eucharist. Because of this, they ended up seeing it, getting angry, and they stoned him to death. But as he was dying, he was holding on to the Eucharist. It was all he was worried about, which is insane. He was holding on to the Eucharist, to the source and summit of our faith, not wanting the boys to get their hands on it. And what's incredible is that after he had died, the Eucharist disappeared. So none of the boys got their hands on it, but on top of that, a guard who was nearby converted because of what he saw. I don't say that story to say that we're going to be stoned to death. That's not what I'm trying to say. I say that story to say that no matter how young we are, having courage within our faith, being willing to stand up and be brave for our faith and strong in our faith is something that it doesn't matter what age you are. And St. Tarcisius makes that evident. But if we think that St. Tarcisius was able to accomplish that without really talking to God, without having a prayer life, then we're out of our minds, right? We absolutely, in order to be courageous, need to have that prayer life, that relationship with God, because there's a distinction. There's a distinction between knowing about God, which, again, I don't know what it's like in Harlan. Do you guys go to Catholic school? No, it's mainly public. It's mainly public.
Well, this is the Catholic.
This is the Catholic school. It said that on the outside of the building. How did I not? Okay. So, but most of you guys go to public school?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so most of us go to public school. But nevertheless, most of you are cradle Catholic? Yeah? Okay, most of you are cradle Catholic. So I'm sure that we know a lot about God to a degree. We might not know a ton, but to a degree, we know about God. So it's a distinction between knowing about God and knowing God, because those are two different things, right? Tyler can know about Paige, but Tyler knowing Paige is a different thing, right? To know someone is to have a friendship with them, to have a connection, to talk to them, to know more than just about that person, and it's the same thing with God. St. Tarcisius knew God on a deep level. And guys, oftentimes we forget, I know we hear it all the time, and it sounds cliche. The reason it sounds cliche is because it's so true. We are meant to be saints also. And just to clarify, a saint is anybody who is in heaven, even if they're not named a saint by the Catholic Church here on earth. The ones that are named saints by the Catholic Church here on earth are because we know for sure that they're in heaven. We can verify it. We know absolutely that they are in heaven. There's a whole process for that. That's a whole different talk. Regardless, we are called to be saints ourselves. We are called to get to heaven. That's why we're here. And so when I'm talking about focusing on the spiritual life, when I'm talking about focusing on our spiritual health, it is absolutely essential that we start that prayer life day by day. Again, maybe just 5 minutes a day for 23 days or whatever Tyler said, 5 minutes a day, and then work it up slowly but surely. Guys, I'm not going to have us do the thing where we pull out our phone and say the screen time, because for me, that's embarrassingly bad. I have a ridiculous amount of time on my phone. Some other distractions. I don't know if you guys know this. Do you guys have Disney Plus? Yeah? Moon Knight episode 5 came out today. It's great. I'm not going to spoil it. I think it's phenomenal. You absolutely need to watch it. Either way, it's a marvel. It's great. Anyway, point being, guys, we oftentimes mix up saying, okay, I need to focus more time on God, and saying, well, that means I need to ignore everything else. Sure, we can have a phone. Sure, we can have social media. Sure, we can watch Moon Knight. It becomes an issue when we choose those things over God. And I know that sounds cliche. Again, it sounds cliche because it's so true. And that's something that our generation gets so wrong so often.
Q&A is in a little bit.
Thank you, Ben. Ben's with me. I like Ben. But it's just, it's important that we know that ultimately, guys, we are here to get to heaven. We're here to pray. We're here to build that relationship with Him, to get closer with Him, to understand that at the end of the day, we weren't here for material things. Compared to the glory of heaven, our cell phone is absolute dust. It just is. It doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying that we should just throw it out the window. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong with the cell phone. But the reality is, one of the first commandments, it is the first commandment. I know about theology, I'm pretty sure. It is the first commandment that thou shalt not worship false gods before me, right? And oftentimes when we think of that, we think, oh, I'm obeying that because I'm not bowing down to a calf statue. And it's also worshiping a false god when we choose things like our cell phone over God. And guys, I don't know about you, but I got sick of hearing that for a while because, for a while, I just didn't care. Okay, I want to choose my cell phone. It provides me entertainment. The reason that we struggle with it so often is because our brains, more than any other generation, our brains are wired to constantly want entertainment. That's why sometimes we see Mass as so boring. Mass isn't supposed to be entertaining. When we sit here and say oh yeah, Mass is entertaining. It's not. That's the point. It's not supposed to be. We're supposed to worship at Mass. We're supposed to give to the Mass. Our brains are wired to require entertainment. Therefore, we put so much focus on our cell phone. Guys, entertainment can be a good thing, but the reality is entertainment doesn't matter. What matters is building that deep and sincere relationship with God, because again, we are not here for earthly things. We are here for heaven. We are here to get to the glory of heaven. And the pathway to heaven, I forget who said this, but the pathway to heaven is just marked with crosses, with things that we have to go through, with difficult challenges. We're going to struggle in our mental health in our life. We're going to struggle in our spiritual health in our life. That's how it is going to work. But at the end of the day, if we want to triumph from that at all, we need to become best friends with God. I'm not just saying this because, I'm like a religious speaker and we just need to get it into our head. No, I'm saying this because it's true, and it's something that our generation ignores so much. And I know Gen Z is better than that, and I know that we get a really bad rep because of that, and I don't like it. Because I absolutely believe that we can and do triumph over the difficulties in our life, but we think that we can do it alone when we weren't made to. We were made to be with God, and in order to accomplish that at all, we need to build a prayer life with Him. We need to start praying with Him little by little, day by day. And if I'm sounding repetitive, it's because we need to get it into our heads, because we so often forget. I'm not going to pretend like I am exempt from that, right? I've had many ups and downs in my spiritual life. But at the end of the day, step one to rebuilding our prayer life is understanding this, is understanding why it's significant. And then step two is understanding the how, understanding that it probably won't happen overnight. It probably won't happen 0 to 100. But just like St. Tarcisius, if we begin to build that relationship with him, our bravery and our courage in our faith will be stronger than ever. Amen?
Amen.